Welcome to Really Old Movies. I'm your host, Harrison Scullin, and today we got a very special show for you guys. And rather than doing some old movie news, I'll be talking about a subject I've been wanting to for about a year now, about two of my favorite actors and actresses ever who did several collaborations. And then after that, a movie review, and then some video games. And so with that, let's get started with today's show. All right. So it looks like we got some chats over here. Not a Fed saying hello. Let's overthrow their government. Ah. Maybe on next week's show. Oh, yes. All right. Well, let's go ahead then and get started with today's show. Let me pull up. Where did I put it? There it is. So a topic I've been wanting to talk about for a while is about one of my favorite actors and actresses, and that's Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn. Now, Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn were a famous on-screen duo that had a quote-unquote secret, I would say, relationship and whatnot for about 26 years. And that all developed during their time making movies. But before I get into that, so yesterday I did a poll about a new segment I'm going to be adding to live streams starting next week. And that will be really short animated reviews for animated shorts. And we had several choices for names. So I had really old shorts, really old cartoons, really old tunes, and really old animation. And the winner, based on the poll, is really old tunes. And so the way that's going to look is going to be about 30 seconds or less review of an animated short from like Looney Tunes, Disney, Tom and Jerry, kind of that era of animation. And then those will be clipped and put onto Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, and potentially TikTok if I'm brave enough to do that. I don't know if I really like TikTok or not. But just wanting to add other ways of expanding kind of the show a bit, but also to kind of showcase animation history and animated shorts as well, because I really love animation. And so that's that. And now we'll get back to this. So I call this the Hepburn Tracy cinematic universe, just because they did so many movies together, more so than a lot of movie series are. So I think it's really cool to kind of talk about that. Originally, I was going to do a video about it last year, but I just never found the time or whatnot to do so. But now I'm going to do that today. And hopefully in future shows, like I'm wanting to do one about Clark Gable, because Clark Gable had a lot of the same leading ladies. So I call it Gable's Gals. That will be the next kind of show like this, where I talk about movies he did with those different actresses. And so with that, let's get started talking about Hepburn and Tracy Cinematic Universe. So from their Wikipedia page that they shared together, they were a legendary cinematic couple, both often on the screen. They starred in 9 films and had an open secret affair in Hollywood that lasted 26 years, ending just with Tracy's death in 1967. And so I'm going to be discussing all of those films and ranking them in order of what I think was the worst to the best. And let me just name you all 9 of these films in order of when they were released, not in order of my opinion. First being Woman of the Year from 1942, Keeper of the Flame from 1942, Without Love, 1945, Sea of Grass, 1947, State of the Union, 1948, Adam's Rib, 1949, Pat and Mike, 1952, Desk Set, 1957, and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, 1967, the last film Spencer Tracy made, because I believe he died, I want to say, 2 or 3 weeks after completion of filming. And so Yeah, that one is his last movie, pretty much ever, and the last one they did together. And so, with that, let's move on to the first film, what I think is the worst of the bunch. All right. So, number 9 is Without Love from 1942. I'm sorry, 1945. I gave a 2.5 out of 5. I thought it was such a weird and crazy movie. You know, it has the issue if it wants to either be a full on comedy or full on drama, but to me, it doesn't succeed at being either. And it's just so weird. Like Spencer Tracy, right? He's this military guy who's trying to hide, and he's in Katharine Hepburn's basement, and he's making these weird robot and rocket designs for. I think he's in the Air Force or something like that. It was really strange, and I don't have it pictured here, but there's a really funny costume that she has to wear later on. It's like a big old cathode ray tube on her head. It looks really strange. Um, so yeah, non-existent plot. Things randomly happen, but Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn had great chemistry in this film. They always do. This is just a really odd film, and I think the worst of the bunch. All right, looks like we got some comments here. Not a Fed. I think the really old short's name is funnier, but still sounds cool. I particularly love those tunes from way back then that were like Home of the Future stuff. Then how did he die? He had cancer. I believe it was, I want to say stomach or throat cancer. Let me check that real quick. But I'm pretty sure he died of cancer. How did Spencer Tracy die? He had a heart attack. That's crazy. But not surprising. I mean, a lot of people back in those days drank a lot and smoked a lot. So it's probably from that. Which is a shame, though, because he wasn't very old. I want to say, let's see. He was only 67. He wasn't that old. But when you watch Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, he looks really old in it. So I just think the different substances caught up with him. But yeah, anyways, that's Without Love. That's, to me, the worst one they did. So let's move on to number 8. And speaking of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, it's Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of this movie. Nothing to do with the subject matter. I actually think it's really awesome and poignant. They're talking about interracial relationships, which were very contentious back then. I just think if people nowadays would watch this movie, they would see, holy cow, we've come a long way since all of this has happened. That's not necessarily why I didn't like the movie. I don't know. I wasn't really convinced with the relationship. It seemed a little rushed to me. And I don't know. I liked Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn, but they seemed really on the back burner, even though they're the top billed cast here, other than Sidney Poitier, of course. But they're really hardly in the film. It's mostly about the relationship. I don't know. I wasn't the biggest fan of the movie. But again, I think the subject matter is great and all that. But if you take that away from it, if you just think about it as a movie as a whole, it's not super great. But definitely one I think people should watch still. Yeah, it's better than cancer. Yeah, either heart attack or cancer. Those are your choices, right? Yeah. But I gave it a 4 out of 5. I mean, that's not a terrible score. And you'll see with these next few films here, I actually had a hard time compiling this list because I liked so many of them. It was really deciding which one do I like more versus the other, versus which one was worse than the other, because they're all really good movies, which is very rare, I think, to where you have so many movies with the same cast. You would think after a while, well, they're going to start being terrible, right? But no, it just seemed they kept getting better and better. With the exception of this one, I wasn't the biggest fan. All right, let's move on to number 7, which is Woman of the Year from 1942, which is actually their first film they did together. I thought they were really good together. They had great chemistry. You could tell they really liked each other. Now, I want to say this is the movie where they started their affair that lasted 26 years. And I think this is a really good example of a proto rom-com. We didn't really have rom-coms the way we do today just yet. More of the screwball kind of funny comedies versus straight romance. This is kind of a beginning of the romance. But the reason why they're fighting isn't for a silly reason. The reason they're fighting is because they have a lack of communication, and she shows a lack of interest in his work, right? So I think that's kind of an interesting thing that a lot of couples and whatnot can relate to, and is a good relationship film. I gave this a 4.5 out of 5. I really liked it, but like I said, this was a really hard time. I had a really hard time organizing which ones I like more over the other. And the only real critique I had of the movie was there's the ending scene where it just drags on, and I do think they fall in love a little bit too easily. I mean, yes, it's kind of growing over time, their relationship, but it does feel a bit rushed. But again, their acting is so good that you could kind of see past that. And that's why I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. Because I thought it was really good. But of the next few films, I think this is one I'll probably rewatch the least. All right, let's move on to number 6. So their number 6, or my number 6 rather, is The Sea of Grass from 1947. This is a Western film that they did together. I thought it was a very touching and deep film. It's not a comedy at all. But the only thing I really didn't like is I do think it should have been a lot shorter. I want to say it's like a little over 2 hours. It's a very long and drags on for a bit film. And we don't really see Katharine Hepburn near the end of the film, and she's the star. I wanted to see more of her, but we barely see her. We see a lot of Spencer Tracy, but we really spend a lot of time, the last, I want to say 10 or 15 minutes with their kids. And I would have liked to see more of Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn. That's what I'm there for. I don't care about these other kids, or their relationships. But other thing I'll add, this is similar to Gone with the Wind in regards to the drama and the type of story. So get your tissue boxes ready. It's pretty depressing, dramatic film, but it's one that you have to be in the mindset to watch. It's not one that you could just pop on and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to watch Sea of Grass. No, it's a very depressing film. I mean, they have a very strained relationship. They're fighting all the time, and it's not a fun movie. It's like Gone with the Wind, a pretty depressing film, but a really good one. And another one I gave a 4.5 out of 5. But I'd have to be in the mindset to watch it. I'm not going to watch it all the time. And so that's The Sea of Grass. All right, the next film is, takes a second to load here, Pat and Mike from 1952. This is a great movie. I had a really fun time with this one. I love the scenes where Katharine Hepburn is playing tennis and golf and all the different sports. And from my understanding, she was actually a really good athlete. And so this was a way to kind of show off her skills, not just as an actress, but also as a tennis player. So I thought that was pretty cool. And they had great chemistry as always. He was kind of like her, I would say, her coach. And then he kind of fall in love and all that. It's a really cute story, and I really liked it. And I had a lot of fun with it. I think this is a good film later in their career to kind of showcase that they still really liked each other. Again, you could still see their chemistry on screen. All right. My number 4 film is a Frank Capra film called State of the Union from 1948. I loved this movie. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. I thought it was really fun to see Spencer Tracy running for president. I think that's a really interesting storyline. Very poignant because this year's a presidential election year. So this film, I think people should definitely watch this year. And kind of like how Sea of Grass is kind of more of a Katharine Hepburn film, this film is more of a Spencer Tracy film. It's more of his than it is a duo film, but they're in it together, right? They're husband and wife. They have great chemistry. And this film, like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, which is another Frank Capra film, this shows what I'm sure goes on in DC for real for the Republican and Democratic campaigns. It's kind of crazy. The stuff he has to go through, the different interviews, because I can't remember. He's like a union leader of, I can't remember exactly what his profession is, but he's not a politician at all. So he's, starting from basically rags to riches, trying to run for president. So it's a pretty interesting and pretty poignant storyline, but I recommend checking it out. And what I love about these movies in particular, and they did a couple more like this one, is they kind of showed that Republicans and Democrats can get along as friends and family. You know, like we don't have to fight with each other all the time. We don't have to hate each other, right? This is a great movie, I think, showcasing that. And what I love too, I'm pretty sure they don't say what party he's running for. So I think anybody could watch and apply this. Same with Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, another great Frank Capra film. You can apply it either way. Looks like we got a comment here. Not a Fed. Love the art style in these movies. Any idea what medium it was done in, i.e., color, pencil, paint, etc.? I'm not entirely sure. Just like looking at this poster here, I think they got actual photos and maybe colored on top of them, like maybe traced over them. I'm not sure though. That would be a good question to ask though and try to figure out. My guess would be color pencil, maybe charcoal, and maybe some type of airbrushing. It is a really cool style that I think is kind of a lost art that I think we should get back into. Everything nowadays is just photos, and that gets so tiresome. But a lot, and back in these days, they either drew it or drew over it, by hand. So anyway, back to this film. It's a good movie, and I think a really good film to watch this, especially this presidential season. All right, the next film. Let me pull back up here. My number 3 is Keeper of the Flame from 1942. So I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. And like I said, it was so hard to decide. But this one I decided to put as my number 3 because this is one I want to rewatch over and over again. I think it's a great film noir. I haven't seen too many Spencer Tracy films where he's a film noir detective, and he's perfect for it. He's got the gruff look, he's got the tough voice. He does great narration of this. It was a really, really good movie. And I think it's a great story of how sometimes heroes could be corrupted, but they could be saved by the end still, too. Like, it's not the end of the world. If you're a fan of Captain America, Winter Soldier, this is the movie for you. This is a movie about espionage, about, deception and whatnot from the government. This is a really excellent movie for that. And I also love that Katharine Hepburn's character, she ends up being the real hero. And I love Spencer Tracy's monologue at the end of the film where he talks about the people need the truth no matter how terrible it is. We're not children. We can handle it. We can handle the truth, right? This is a great film. And I think is pretty applicable to today. It really is, man. So many of their movies do, man. And we got another comment here. Spicy 4K action. What's up, Harrison? What's up, man? Thanks for coming by. Yeah, just talking about the Spencer Tracy, Katharine Hepburn films. And this one, Keeper of the Flame, is a really, really good film noir. I recommend checking out. All right. We're in the top 2. So my number 2 film is Desk Set from 1957. I loved this movie. I, like all these other ones, could be applicable to today. So in this film, there's a group of researchers in a company who people would call their office and they would go to their book. They would check out, they'd help check out from their library and all of that, all the knowledge that they would need. Like people would say, what's the capital of, I don't know, France, right? And they'd say Paris. I'm like, okay, thank you. Like they're basically what we use today for Google search. But these were real people, doing the research and all of that. And Spencer Tracy's character, or Katharine Hepburn's in charge of that department. Spencer Tracy's coming in to sell a computer that they initially think is to take the place of their jobs. And the reason why I say this is applicable to today is that this is where we are with AI. AI is here to take a lot of the jobs. A lot of people are trying to sell it. But I think, like the premise of this movie, we can actually apply it more than it'll replace us. Because at the end of the movie, these characters, they don't actually lose their jobs. They're the ones who actually end up inputting all the data into the computer so that when people call their department, they could type in the results and give it to the people right then and there. They don't have to wait a few weeks. They don't have to wait for books to come in. They could give it to them right then and there. I actually think ChatGPT could be the same thing, or it could lead to Skynet, whichever comes first. But I really think this film is actually a good one for today, is that we shouldn't be afraid of technology and try to use it. Use it as a tool for good and use it as a tool to help improve our lives rather than replace our lives. But back to Hepburn and Tracy, I think they're great. All the other cast is great. And it's actually a really fun movie about some pretty serious topic about how technology comes along and replaces jobs. It's a pretty scary thought. We can handle the truth. Never a less true statement in modern society. I know, but we need it, man. Spicy 4K action. I've literally only seen Summertime for Katharine Hepburn films. Need to watch a lot more. Well, I recommend checking out the ones with her and Spencer Tracy. They're, to me, some of their best movies because they have great relationship, great on-screen chemistry. So I recommend you check those ones out if you want a good start. Just this list here, and I'll name them off at the end again. Just an idea of which ones to check out from them. All right. So speaking of that, let's move on to the number one. So the number one is Adam's Rib from 1945 or 49, excuse me. I gave this a 5 out of 5. I thought it was absolutely hilarious. So in this movie, Hepburn and Tracy, they're playing attorneys, and they decide to take on the same case where the husband is the prosecution and the wife is the defense. And I think it's a great movie. Yeah, it's about what some would call today like social justice, with women's rights and whatnot and fighting for equality. But the core of the film that I really loved was that it's a story of how it's okay to have differing opinions even within the same household. Like I said, they're husband and wife. They're kind of fighting against each other in a way, but also it's grown their relationship by the end of it. And again, this is a film I think that's relevant for today, where it's okay to have different opinions. It's okay if you're a liberal. It's okay if you're a conservative. I don't know about communist, but no, right? But it's okay. The only way we could survive as a country is if we learn to live with each other. And this movie, to me, yes, it's a comedy. Yes, it's funny. But to me, is a great way of showing, no, we could get along. Even a joke at the end of it was they were deciding to run for senator. He is a Republican. And then she said, okay, well, I'll run as the Democrat. So they're running against each other. I don't know, it's just a cute, fun film and a harmless way of showing we can get along. I think that's important. So I'm off my soapbox now, but glad the subtitle rings true. LOL. Yep. Exactly. Yep. But anyways, those are the Hepburn Tracy films in the Hepburn Tracy cinematic universe. I recommend checking all of them. And let me bring back up the list again so you could kind of see the names of the films. We got Woman of the Year from 1942, Keeper of the Flame from 1942, Without Love from 1945, Sea of Grass 47, State of the Union 1948, Adam's Rib from 1949, and that's my personal favorite, Pat and Mike from 1952, Desk Set from 57, and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner from 1967. So these are all great films to get started, just watching old movies and getting interested in them. And what I love about old movies is because there were so few actors and actresses and directors, it's pretty easy to see a good chunk of them just by focusing on different actors and actresses. And that's what I tried to do here, was trying to showcase some great movies from people who collaborated a lot. And like I said, this is a series I'm going to keep going on for who knows how long. The next one probably won't be for a while. just because of how many movies I have to watch for it. But I want to talk about Clark Gable and his leading ladies because he worked with a lot of the same actresses. And I'll call that series Gable's Gals, where he was with, let's see, Joan Crawford, uh, Jean Harlow. There's a couple more. I can't think of them right now, but there was like 4 or 5 actresses he worked with and did like 5 or 6 movies with. So my goal is to get through all of those. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So let's go ahead and stop sharing that. And it looks like we got some comments here. Not to derail, but is Reefer Madness in your realm? Like, would you ever do a video about it? You know, I've actually considered doing it. I almost did it this year in April because the day would have come out would have been April 20th. I've talked about it on my Letterboxd before. I've did a review of it there. And actually, in my work in drug and alcohol prevention, we actually talk about that movie as an example of what not to do when it comes to trying to help people make positive life choices. Like our goal is to prevent youth access to drugs and alcohol, right? So Reefer Madness was an example of what not to do. And, you know, having watched it and reviewed it, I see a lot of that. I mean, a lot of it is definitely hammed up to kind of scare parents and be scare tactic and whatnot. But I still think it's worth checking out. It's definitely very low quality, and it doesn't have a lot of the humor quality of a movie like The Room, for example. I thought it was going to be like that, where it's so bad it's good. It's just kind of mediocre, kind of meh. Eventually, I do want to do a review of it at some point. I might do a double feature with that, and I think Cocaine Madness, I think that was another one. Because I know recently, I want to say Kino Lorber or somebody did a release of them. Now, having said all that, I personally don't use drugs or anything like that. But I think it would be interesting to talk about that, especially from my perspective of a drug and alcohol specialist. But yeah, no, you're totally fine, man. You didn't derail it at all. Good question. All right. So with that, let's move on to today's movie review. Let me pull it up here again. Oh, let me open that back up. And let's move on to that one. All right, so today's movie review is the film Murder from 1930 from Alfred Hitchcock. And so let me give you some behind the scenes details about Murder. A German version of this movie was called Mary, also from 1931. It was filmed at the same time using the same sets, but with German actors. If you've ever seen Dracula from 1931, they did a similar thing for the Spanish version, and I've reviewed both of those. They're pretty interesting to see the differences and similarities. But this was a common practice when sound films were relatively new, and it's what are called multi-language films or multi-language versions of films. It's not necessarily that it's subtitles or someone dubbing over. No, they made the whole movie, but with a different cast speaking the different language. Some movies had as many as 3 or 4 different languages. So it's the same movie filmed 4 times and sent to different countries. So it's a pretty interesting and very niche and unique concept that didn't last very long because once subtitles came around and dubbing, especially when audio improved, that whole industry of multi-language kind of died out. But this is a film that's another example of that, where there's an English and a German one. And another behind the scenes detail, this is the closest that Alfred Hitchcock made a film with Columbia Pictures. So he directed films for every other studio in America, from Universal, let's see, Columbia, RKO, and Warner Brothers. Right? But this was the closest he ever did with Columbia Pictures. They did the UK release of the film. So I thought that was pretty interesting that he pretty much worked with every major movie studio. So, yeah. All right. Well, now let's get into my thoughts on the plot. So the plot, I gave it a 4 out of 5. I liked it. I like how it seemed pretty obvious to everyone, including us, the audience, that the character here was guilty. Um, but by the end of the film, we kind of see how it all unfolds, and we actually learn who really is guilty. And I thought that was pretty interesting. It's a twist of what Hitchcock would always do. It's like, oh wow, um, oh yeah, this chick is so guilty. Well, there's no way she isn't. And the way it's presented, you're like, how is she innocent? So it's a pretty interesting plot, and I won't get too much into it, just because I want you guys to see it too. But I thought it was really cool. The only issue I really have is we spend a lot of time deliberating and hearing about stuff. I would have liked to actually seen more of it, see more of her in jail, for example. She has like 10 lines in the entire movie, and she's all over the marketing, all over the posters, and she's in like 2 or 3 scenes, if that. This being one of them, pictured here. I would have liked to have seen more of her. But other than that, I really liked the plot. I thought it was good. All right, let's move on to the acting. So the acting, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. I thought it was good, not great. The actor for Sir John Menier, who's pictured on the right there, he was okay. He's kind of the main character, I would say. But he's introduced way too late into the movie. I kind of wish the way it was structured was we're in the courtroom and the jury's deliberating, and that's where we're introduced to him. Kind of like in 12 Angry Men, because he's kind of that juror who kind of questions everybody else. There's a couple more too, but he's the main one who questions it. I wish we started out there, then we see kind of everybody's perspective, but told in flashback. That would have been much more of a Hitchcock style film. But instead, we just get a lot of dialogue, a lot of talking about things. And to me, the acting wasn't super great. That kept me super interested. So I didn't love that. And so that's why I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. I wish there were better actors to keep me more intrigued and more interested. Looks like we got a chat here from Jacob Ironside. Good evening. Good evening, Jacob. Thanks for coming by. So let's move on to directing. So directing, I gave it 4 out of 5. I thought it was good. I thought many of his tropes were kind of shown in this movie, such as everyone being against Menier in the juror deliberation scene. That was good. Or he was the only one who believed that she was the innocent one, like everybody against one person, right? I thought that was cool. And I also like the camera work that was done. The close-ups of the characters are very interesting in a way that he's known for. But I would say this is not his most suspenseful film. If we saw more shots of the girl in prison, maybe more of like the gallows and all that, we just get like one quick scene of that. I would have liked more to kind of build up the tensions, like, holy cow, she's going to die if nothing happens soon, right? Add a lot more intensity. Kind of like in The Man Who Knew Too Much from 1956 or 7, where everything's crescendoing up, like the guy's about to clang his cymbals as the guy's about to shoot the ambassador and all of that. That tension is what I think was missing from this movie. So yeah, that's why I gave it 4 out of 5. Not a Fed says, had an old coworker that said he was a descendant of Alfred Hitchcock. No idea if he was truthful or not. He likes ska music, if that is of any weight on his statement. Oh, that's funny. Like Oingo Boingo? Like, I mean, Oingo Boingo's fine, I guess, but that's funny. It's kind of a weird thing to lie about if he was lying about that. Because, I mean, I don't know. Why would you brag about something like that? I guess Alfred Hitchcock would be a fun one to brag about, though, because he's a pretty interesting and prolific director. So that's interesting, not a Fed. All right, let's move on to the cinematography and special effects. I give that a 4.5 out of 5. I thought it was amazing, especially the close-ups like the one here. We get like a back and forth shot between her and the John Menier character. I thought that was really interesting. A lot of the voiceover work was really good. It was very Hitchcockian. Like even this shot right here, I think Hitchcock used again in Dial M for Murder. Like it looks almost exactly like this. This movie is very I would say loosely similar to each other, but pretty similar premise. Um, I also love the scene where everyone is asking Sir John about different parts of the case and how he needs to prove his point, how he thinks she's innocent. They're all kind of ganging up on him in different voice over and whatnot. And it's very interesting editing and whatnot to kind of terrorize him. It kind of feels very claustrophobic, like everyone's coming in around him to see their way. And I love that. I thought that was very, very interesting visually and really good use of editing. There isn't a whole lot, but these scenes really stood out to me. So that's why I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. All right, next is the music. Music, I give it a 3 out of 5. It was okay, not great. It's not very suspenseful. And I think that helps a lot in his later films, especially with Bernard Herrmann, or the score kind of builds up the tension and whatnot. This movie doesn't have that at all. I wish there was more of that. Like I said, it didn't feel very suspenseful, even though this is labeled as a thriller and whatnot. And it is a pretty thrilling story of a character who could be, executed at any second, right? I don't think he had that fully fleshed out yet, because this is still one of his earlier films. I want to say his like 12th or 13th film, which is a lot, but still one of his earlier works, not like his later works. And so that's why I give 3 out of 5. All right, so tallying that all up, that brings my Letterboxd score to a 3.8 out of 5, which I'm rounding to a 4. That brings my critic list score to a 76%. So would I recommend this movie? Yes, but like the movie Blackmail, I would only recommend this movie to people who are already fans of Alfred Hitchcock. This is not one I would use to introduce people to it, because it's not his full use of suspense yet, or music, or any of the things that he's really known for. This is just the beginnings of it. I think once you've seen, like I've seen 16 of his movies, or actually 17 counting this one now, 17 of his movies, this one I could appreciate a lot more than I would say someone who hasn't seen any. So before you check out this one, I recommend checking out his later work that you hear about a lot, like North by Northwest, Psycho, although I haven't seen that one. Sorry, everyone. I'm going to at some point. Um, Rear Window is a good one. Vertigo is another good one. Check out those ones first and then come back to this one. So then you could kind of see, oh, this is where he started and this is how he ended up. And so with that, those are my thoughts on Murder 1930 from Alfred Hitchcock. That's the end of today's movie review. So let me get Halo queued up, and I'm going to do some online gaming and get killed by a bunch of 12-year-olds like usual. But thanks for coming in, guys, and listening to the Spencer Tracy and Hepburn, and then also the murder review. I always like to end the night off with me just playing some Halo or whatever other games I got. I just like playing these games so much. So move this one here. Put up the chats over here. Okay. Right. I'll need to remember to share that screen too. Let's open the chat again. So let's share. Oh, shoot. I forgot to do this on Chrome because Firefox doesn't do audio. Well, it'll just be me talking, I guess. That's fine. I always forget that, man. Come on, Firefox. Gotta add that, man. All right, let's see. All right, let's do some Slayer here. Yeah, we'll do that. while we're waiting for that, I'm going to see how I'm sounding on YouTube here. I'm excited to do those animated short reviews. I think that's going to be really fun. I just love those old cartoons so much. All right, let's hear how we're sounding on YouTube. Waiting for that. I'm going to see how I'm sounding on YouTube. Okay, perfect. Now let's check Kick. Oh, here we go. Welcome to really old. Okay. We sound good on Kick too. Perfect. Okay, let's see how we do here. Oh, I need to turn off my audio on here. I'll probably do 1 or 2 rounds here. Let's see. Okay, good. It's off. All right, here we are. Oh, I just. Oh. Yeesh. Darn, I didn't get any kills yet. Can move this a little bit closer. There we go. Come a little bit closer. You're my kind of man, so big and so strong. Come a little bit closer. I'm on my own, and the night is so long. Aw, oh, dang it. Let's see, we got a comment here. Not a Fed says, let me play Hey with you sometime if I got decent internet. Yeah, heck yeah, man. That'd be awesome. Oh. Yeah. If you have any social media or whatnot, go ahead and follow me on Facebook or Twitter, and I could send you the info for next week. That'd be awesome. Not today, son. Yeah, boy. I think this is the 25, right? Yeesh. But yeah, man. Follow me on Twitter or Instagram, whatever you want. And I'll send you the login info there for next week's. I keep shooting the wall. Yeah, got him. Got him from the grave. Yeah. Let's see these names for today. No, nothing crazy like last time. Like Oinky Doinky. I don't know. Is this a Halo 3 map? Oh, he beat me to it. Okay, yeah, whichever works, man. Or I guess you could email me. I'll give you my email. Or even Discord if you use Discord. I have a Discord. Well, at least I won't be the last one. Oh, no. Steam or email? I don't think I could post. Oh, sure. We could do Steam. Go ahead and follow me on Steam. Should be just really old movies. Dark Souls wins. Yeah, because I don't want you to have to dox yourself. Killed 10, but I died 17 times. Tell you what. Yeah, my Steam name is just capital really, capital old, capital movies, one word. And go ahead and follow me there, and then I'll send you a invite the next time I play next week. So it should be a okay. I just made my hand. Oh, gotcha. Yes, I see it. Okay. Yep, I got it. Nice. So I'll accept. Perfect, man. Yeah, that'll be fun. Oh gosh, that's funny. Okay, maybe I'll do. Yep. Okay, I just accepted it then. Okay. Oh, there we go. Let's try that. You're good, man. No, that's funny. Okay, let's see. This will probably be the last one, then I'll call it after that, guys. This is Halo 2, isn't it? Hello, friend. No. Not a Fed says. No. Hold on a second. I gotta block this guy here. Kick likes to give me a lot of spam. Not a Fed says, thinking of movies. I wish drive-in movies are still a thing. Seems like such a fun concept. I agree, man. I know in my area we have one, but it's not the same as the here in like the olden days. You know, people just go there to hang out for hours. It's more of a spectacle here. No. I've never been to it though. I've always wanted to go though. I think it'd be really fun to do that. That's the thing. If you don't have I know some of them, you still need to log into a radio station. Now, my car has a radio. I think my wife's car does, but they're making cars without radios now. So they just may be a thing of the past now. But I agree. It's a fun concept. Yeesh. That was a dumb idea. 0 kills. It's a hard map to find people on. No. Ah. Dang. Bum. I wanted that kill. Yes, got one finally. No. There's too many of them. No. Here's a question for you guys. What was your favorite Halo as a kid? My favorite was probably Halo Reach because I think it came out when I was in middle school. So I was the right age for it. Me and my buddies would play it all the time, Halo Reach. We all got it at the same time and all beat it within the same week. Those are good times, man. Halo 1 first online game. It's a good choice. I didn't play that one really much until later in life. So we had the first Xbox, but not for long. When Halo 3 came out, my dad got a 360. And I don't know, maybe it was just too hard for me as a little kid. I had more fun with the later ones. No, I wasn't ready. Okay. Oh. Well, I got 3 kills at least. I gotta say, the only real critique I have of the Master Chief Collection, it seems a lot harder to invite friends to play online than it was on the 360. On the 360, it was really easy. Yeah. Okay. Move my mouse over here. Not a Fed says I joined a roleplay server where everyone was supposed to be on a spring break. It was on that beach island level, and I was just brooding in the corner going, ... like a loser. No one interacted with me, and I don't blame them. Oh, that's funny. Major General. Whatever that means. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for today, guys. Let me stop sharing that. All right. But thanks, everyone, for hopping on today. And very last second, I just came back from a really fun trip with me and my wife. We went camping and stuff. So that's always fun to do. You know, be out in the woods, kind of be away from everything. But it's nice to kind of be back on normal schedule. But now I wish I was camping again. It's a lot cooler up there than it is right here. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching and listening to today. And this has been Really Old Movies. I'm your host, Harrison Scullin. Take care, everyone.